first testing the microphone with people in the room. Is that good in the back and everywhere? Great. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks. Before we start, we have probably a couple of people arriving as people look for parking and things, but I just wanted you to know that during the ceremony at any time, if you need to use facilities, there are some right here, and there's also some just through the side door there. Just go through the stairs and go through the door and down the stairs. It's right over there at any time, no problem. And if you need to get any fresh air or anything, you're welcome to go through the back door there at any time too, because sometimes that happens. That's all we need to say about anything else that I can think of. So let's start. Well, I guess I should say who I am also. My name is Jeff Hopkins, and I'm the principal of the school, and so I get the honor of kicking things off here today. So, welcome, faculty, families, special guests, and graduates. I want to start by acknowledging and thanking the Lekwungen people, also known as the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations, for allowing us to learn and to celebrate on these lands. Lekwungen means place to smoke herring, and Lekwungen Athan refers to the language of the land. Lekwungen traditionally and still to date unites the Esquimalt and Songhees peoples as one people. I am not sure there has been a time when I've been happier to see a grad class about to leave the school. Wait a minute, that didn't come out quite right. Sorry, what I mean to say is there may not have been a time in recent history when the intended function of graduating from high school better matches the world into which these graduates are commencing their adult lives. Are there difficulties in the world today? Of course there are. I can't think of a time, however, when this could not be said. The world is a complex place and difficulties can arise for any number of reasons. But even these last 2 years or so, despite the new challenges and obstacles we have faced, some of which have given rise to even more challenges that we have yet to face, have only offered new variations on very familiar themes. Some events are predictable and some are not. Some will be prepared for, some will not. Just as we have faced individual and shared challenges at any given time in our personal and collective history, we can learn something from these challenges. To provide a current example of what I mean, Professor Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, said recently that the pandemic, quote, represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, and reset our world, end quote. Some are referring to this concept as the Great Reset. Now, recognizing that for some of you, quotes from certain organizations might pull you into an unpleasant ad hominem rabbit hole, let me uncouple the quote from its source and explain why the so-called Great Reset offers our graduates sitting here today some very rare opportunities indeed. Rutger Bregman, in his book Utopia for Realists, How We Can Build the Ideal World, outlines his decades of historical, evolutionary, neuroscientific, and philosophical research to remind us that people are in fact hardwired to be cooperative, considerate, and caring to one another. These qualities are by far humanity's greatest strengths. Yet sometimes, when we look at the headlines and the social media news feeds, or force feeds as I like to call them, we see aspects of the world that might seem to provide evidence of the very opposite kind of human nature. During this pandemic, we have witnessed the results of people being viewed pessimistically, assuming the worst about their nature and developing policies that reflect that vision. And we have also seen the results of people being viewed optimistically, allowing the innate positivity in humans to get us through. I would argue that by and large, the real successes during this pandemic were mainly a result of human kindness and consideration. To better explain the point here, I'll quote someone else now, Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. While there are many things beyond our sphere of influence, so much of our lives comes down to the way we perceive them. This is actually at the core of cognitive behavioral therapy, re-examining evidence and considering alternative hypotheses about what it is telling us, and then using it to construct different mental models of our lives. Our graduating class has had a recent lived example of how worldview can impact what the world is actually like. by reopening conversations about what our world can actually look like after having had to make so many massive changes to what might have otherwise been seen as an unchangeable status quo, we can reform our world. And those celebrating commencement today are best positioned to do just that. Beyond just the fact that the world has perhaps never been more changeable and that graduates are at a perfect stage in life to take part in shaping it, my optimism also comes from these graduates in particular. Throughout their years at PSII, these young people have demonstrated again and again that they can go beyond just absorbing knowledge that someone else has already unearthed, that they can synthesize that learning and can use it to create new learning. Creativity is often given short shrift in education, yet it is the very ingredient that must be present in any recipe if innovation is to take place. The creativity among this group of young people has been a pleasure to experience day after day after day. Now, for those of you graduates who are sitting here listening to this thinking that these words do not apply to you somehow, I would encourage you to think again. You've been attending a school where each day requires a great deal of executive function, deciding how to approach the learning activities that you have co-created with teachers and assigned to yourself, deciding what to do first, what to do second, even when to take a break, change rooms, change gears, go for a walk, or eat food. We designed the school in a way that requires you to create and to reflect continuously. Other aspects of your creativity include new ways of thinking about old ideas, new ways of illustrating concepts, new understandings after much consideration and personal synthesis, new metrics of quality and success that come from personal evaluation, and unique ways to share your learning. This is unusual in most of our educational institutions, but you have eaten, slept, and breathed it outside. You really took us up on our offer. In short, you are so very ready for this world at this time of the Great Reset. You stepped out from under the shadow of the status quo a while ago, and you know how to live and learn without it. I also know you will take leadership roles of various kinds in helping those who are less comfortable away from those familiar but stifling shadows, who have not yet attained this escape velocity, to change metaphors. You are part of the bridge that takes our world from where it was to where it can be. The trick will be, of course, to remember that you are worthy of this role. You will be given many opportunities to fall prey to imposter syndrome, that feeling that you have no business being in the place you find yourself. And there will be people who are very happy to make you feel that way. So, have faith in your worldview and draw upon what you have learned about that world, about yourself, about the connection between the two. Stay aware of that truth. I'm not sure what a graduation speech would be without a quote from the immortal bard, yes, David Bowie. These children that you spit on as they try to change their worlds are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware of what they're going through. As you celebrate with friends and family, please remember to do so safely. We need you in good shape as you set out to reform the world. Oh yes, and see you next week. That was the anticlimactic part. Congratulations to the PSII graduating class of 2022.
The teachers of PSII have been doing these speeches for graduating learners since the first group of grads. This is the 9th graduation ceremony PSII is celebrating, and the learners seem to look forward to it every year. So much so that every year, as long as I've been at PSII anyway, learners in the graduating year start wondering and asking who's going to be doing their grad speech. Sometimes their wondering is simply curiosity. They have no particular preference for which teacher might talk about them. Other times, learners have very strong feelings about who they would like to have talk about them at the end of the year. AJ falls into that latter category, and right now he thinks he's happy to see me up here. But as AJ often says, Sarge, we have a love-hate relationship. My first experience with AJ came long before he ever attended PSII. AJ was in my wife's Sunday school class when he was much younger, and I would often be regaled with stories of AJ in class when she came home. I'm not going to share any of those particular stories. After all, AJ was much younger. But one of the things that sticks out from those stories is how AJ always had his own particular way of seeing things. Flash forward several years, and AJ has joined our PSII community. An accomplished speed skater, AJ has had to balance his school goals with his athletic goals through his whole high school journey. I am always in admiration for learners who choose this path, and AJ is no exception. While still working towards his graduation goals, and through these strange COVID times, AJ continued to compete and advance in speed skating. AJ's commitment to skating is matched by his desire to be working. Now let's be clear, I don't mean working on the academic sense, where he's happy to spend his time researching ideas and producing papers. No, that is not AJ. Not that he is incapable. As this year has demonstrated, when he has to, he is capable of doing the academic work, as long as someone is harassing him, or reminding him, or in some other way, riding him just to sit down and do it. Then sure, he'll do it. That is the hate heart of our love-hate relationship. But if not, then AJ would rather be found with a tool in his hand, a rake, or a lawnmower, or a hedge trimmer, or a stim meter, or virtually any tool other than a pen or a pencil or a keyboard. Regardless, though, through 3 years of an ongoing love-hate relationship, I've had the privilege to accompany AJ. To accompany AJ on this learning journey. And it has seen us to this point. AJ, I'd like to believe that on balance, the love in our relationship outweighs the hate. This is not the end of your learning journey, but this is where I send you on ahead without it. I know that you will continue to do your best learning with tools in your hands and laughter in your voice. Congratulations.
Began working with Vinny this last fall, it became immediately apparent to me that they thrive in an inquiry process. They're a keen observer of the world around them, and they take inspiration from their observations and run with them to places that could never have been predicted or planned for. The results are joyful, resplendent with curiosity, and maybe sometimes a little bit creepy. I have been moved by Vinny's exploration of creative process and awareness of themselves, but most especially by their awareness of themselves in the creative process. Many of our conversations center around Vinny exploring how they want to move through the world around them and how this impacts their creativity. For instance, they have explored different ways of taking commissions for artwork, ultimately setting on a strategy that allows them flexibility in the process and emphasizes the agency to use their own style. I am going to miss my hours-long conversations with Vinny about the ways we engage in the creative process. They have inspired me to pay closer attention and take notice and put it back into my own work as a creator. I will also miss checking portfolio every morning before school to see what middle-of-the-night art drops have arrived from Vinny in my inbox overnight. Vinny is a storyteller through and through. A goal Vinny brings to all their creations is finding ways to make enjoyment of the story more accessible for everyone. They pull in many different mediums to accomplish this, including drawing, writing, and soft sculpture. They create deep and complex worlds, often from a speculative fiction perspective, pulling in their understanding of the natural world with threads of logic and continuity running through it all. Part of being a storyteller is bringing the community together, and Vinny has worked to create a close online community of like-minded writers and creators. This has been a source of growth for Vinny in sharing work and receiving enthusiastic and useful feedback from fellow creators. As Vinny transitions to a new path in life, I know that turning stories into tangible realities will continue to be a part of that journey. There are so many possibilities and opportunities out there, places where curious, keen observers who can't help themselves but create can find a home. Vinny, I look forward to seeing where these next journeys take you and what shapes and corners your creativity grows into. I also await the day you call me up to tell me that a time machine has arrived at your front door with an offer to take you back to 1981 to work on a very interesting new movie about mystics and Skeksis and Gelflings. Should you go with them? Yes, most definitely. Congratulations, Vinny.
I worry sometimes about the world. I worry that people too often turn away from themselves to take the easy path, or the path that someone else wants them to take, or the path they see everyone else taking. And then I sit down beside Sahara, and my worry vanishes because here, in front of me, is someone with the inner conviction, the tremendous courage, the audacity to say, I am here to be me. I am here to challenge myself and to grow. I'm here to be a human who's honorable. I will pour my whole self into everything that I do. I am here to do my utmost to make things better, to care for those around me, and to support a healthy community. Most importantly, I'm here to make my own path. I could talk at length about what a strong leader Sahara is. I could tell you her questioning mind led her to be working ahead of grade level in her maths and sciences throughout high school. I could tell you she did all of this while being involved in Girl Guides, competitive figure skating, and while holding down a job. I could tell you she was a leader amongst her peers, helping them to learn, supporting them when they struggled, encouraging. It's clear that Sahara works hard at everything she does. But working hard is not Sahara's defining characteristic. It's her bravery. There are others who work hard, but not all work hard at things that are hard. And for this reason, above all others, I'm tremendously proud of her. Next year, Sahara will be starting in on a biochemistry undergraduate degree at UVic. Her goal is to go into pharmacological research to develop medicine and technology to improve people's lives. To start on this path, she's already studied chemical structure, analyzed the purpose and function of the blood-brain barrier, and considered the social impacts of having a national pharmacare plan. Sahara, Sai is going to miss your smile and your laughter. I'm not sure who's going to be quite so careful and observant in our tiny little lab, or who's going to help me clean up afterwards, because Sahara always offers to help clean up afterwards. But I know your skills are going to serve you very well at UVic. Congratulations on your graduation. You worked really, really hard on this.
Meadow, this one's for you. It's really great to see you here today. I know it hasn't been an easy road, and completing high school over these last couple of years has been quite a challenge, and for us as well as for the students. But I know you and I have spent a lot of time talking about getting to this moment, and to see you here today is extremely special to me. I've enjoyed, Meadow, our conversations over the last year, getting to know you and your dreams. Meadow's
a wonderful dreamer, and we would talk about cars that she would love and dreams of jobs that she would like to work at, and starting businesses with her friends, and getting to see the world through her eyes, through her photography, and the things that she chose to capture, what she saw beautiful in the world. Some teachers, myself included, would often mistake daydreamers in class as kids who are just kind of checking out from our lesson, and often they are, but I think with Meadow and a lot of our learners, it's something a little different. They're visualizing, they're dreaming about what they want to be doing with their lives, and I think a lot of artists and professional athletes talk about visualizing and the power of that, and just picturing yourself training and working on the things that you want to do can actually produce better results for you in your life. And I see that with Meadow, spending time thinking about what she wants and how she sees herself living that dream. Meadow has a keen eye for the present as well, capturing moments with her camera that tell the story of her subjects and reveal what she cares about the most. Often, it's the people in her life, and Meadow treats everyone with respect and an open heart. I want you to keep telling your stories with that camera, for those stories need to be told, and it can be the vehicle that you've been dreaming of that will take you to the success that you've been manifesting. Believe in yourself, Meadow, as you do in others, and you will do these things. Please join me today in celebrating the graduation of Meadow Conver.
I have the pleasure of getting to talk about Robin. I met Robin a couple of years ago when he joined the school. He was full of fire and passion, and I remember him being very happy to engage in conversations on virtually any topic. But he was most passionate about art, gender, and comics. When I had the opportunity to step in as Robin's board teacher earlier this year, I discovered that Robin's passions run very, very deep. But, perhaps more importantly, I learned that Robin's creativity is grounded in an ability to tell fantastic and engaging character-driven stories. During many of our meetings, I found myself lost in Robin's narrative as he described a particular plot of one of his stories, or the dimensions of a particular character, and how those characters drive the next plot point, or how the visual design of the character was inspired, or what references were used in the design. And I found I'd rather listen to Robin's story tell than interrupt it long enough to engage in the other work that we needed to get to. To make this about me for just a moment, one of the things that is important to me in my teaching practice is to help learners connect to story, wherever. I'm a strong believer in the idea that stories carry our collective memory through the ages. So for me, when I listen or read any of Robin's storytelling, whether it's a plot description, a full-fledged narrative, or a serialized comic, I am filled with optimism for the future. Robin's stories embrace the emerging diversity of our times while still telling empathetic and engaging stories about individuals finding their way in difficult times, about people's learning to lean on each other, and about learning and growing. Whenever we gather like this to recognize the learners who are now taking their learning to the next chapter of their lives, there is much joy and celebration for how these diverse humans have met their goals. But there's also a touch of sadness. We won't talk with these learners on a daily basis anymore, and it is no secret that we miss them when they're gone. However, in the case of Robin, I know at some point in the not too distant future, I will be able to access a Robin story in some medium or another. Robin, congratulations on your graduation. We are all going to miss you. Please keep telling stories, because I, for one, am not done listening. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, everyone. Isn't it great after 2 years that we all get together to celebrate as Jeff had said. What a great feeling. Now, I don't know about the rest of you guys with ties on, but me, I feel since 2 years since I've worn one, I'm going to strangle or have a stroke. Hopefully, neither. Anyway, I don't like the microphone. I'm old. Can't adapt to that technology. Anyway, for those of you who don't know me, I'm the old guy that floats in and out of the school a couple times a week. And I deal, my lucky break to deal with the students from the, learners, now they're old students, the learners from the PAB Ballet, Victoria Academy of Ballet. They attend school in the morning, they go to ballet every day, they go to ballet Saturday and Sunday. These are truly young people with a focus, and what a pleasure it is to deal with them. I get to talk about two of them today, lucky me. The first one, a real gentleman, Hansel Vela. Hansel came to us a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, I can't remember Hansel, but that kind of time break. And I have seen incredible development in that young man. Just picture it for yourself for a minute. You go to another country, funny kind of language, you might know a few words here or there. You're in a homestay situation, and it always demands on you, and it's tough. But Hansel, to his credit, has shown incredible growth. Absolutely incredible growth. And it's been an absolute pleasure getting him. I've seen him start tackling issues in education and making some really good decisions about them. The second thing you need to know about Hansel is how incredibly talented as a dancer he is. In fact, culminating this week with a honorable mention at the provincial dancing competition. Now, for those of you who don't know that, it's incredible for a young man that age to get to that level. In the future, I think Hansel's plans probably have to do a little bit with trying to become a professional ballet dancer. That would seem to be the thing, I think, right? Good. So, I encourage you. I think, Sarge, you were talking about storytelling. Words, some music. Hansel, if you ever get a chance to see him in person, you will see him create a real story in dance. I've seen him dance twice this year. He's absolutely captivated me with his incredible stage presence, his incredible smile, and those occasional laughs. The other thing a little secret about Hansel, I can't even get it straight. Another sort of secret about Hansel is I have never seen a young man eat so much. His box lunches to school literally would feed a family of 5 or 6 months. So I really have to say I felt very sorry for the homestay family. They're probably in heavy arthritis as we speak. So please join me in congratulating Hansel Vela for his incredible performance, his incredible achievement, as in his incredible future. Because Hansel promised me something before he graduated. Hansel, what was that? He said he would teach me how to do the splits. Do you think I'm not going to demonstrate? Despite the fact that I cannot do the splits, we decided to make an exception just for him.
James's interests, if listed, would take up many, many pages of a densely packed book written in a tiny, tiny font size. So, PSII was definitely the place for him. You would not think it would become a normal occurrence as a teacher to be confronted with a bright-eyed learner telling you, I think I've figured out an alternate theory for describing how the universe is constructed. But this is what happens on a nearly weekly basis when you're around James. James is the master of what if. Once he has delved into a topic long enough, you can see the wheels turning and the what if questions start pouring out of him. You can see his eyes turned up to the side as he's looking inside his brain to see what he's thinking. These questions span physics, math, biology, ecology, music, psychology, and more. This is all the more amazing when it has been done against the backdrop of James also learning new ways of learning, including how he reads, writes, takes notes, and organizes his thoughts to better match his personal abilities and tendencies. In fact, the innovations he has made to how he can optimize his functioning in an academic setting are astoundingly creative and effective. James is an example of a person who is comfortable in embracing himself as he really is and not pretending that he is something else. This is tough as an adolescent when insecurity can motivate a person to be less open. In this way, James has also helped encourage his peers to live authentically and out loud like he does. Some of this is accidental, as James is rarely trying to play an overt leadership role. But sometimes it is quite intentional, coming from a place of real collaboration and caring. I can't count how many times James has offered a new way of thinking of something that I had thought was long ago fixed and frozen in a certain way in my own mind. I will miss these shared insights next year when James is no longer at PSII, drifting in the doorway of the office or bumping into him in the hall when he has a new idea about how the universe is constructed. I look forward to seeing what James creates for himself over the next few years. I know it will be unique, and I also know it will be truly authentic, because that's how James does everything. Please welcome me in congratulating James Watson.
Jalen came to us, a transplant from the States, in grade 9. He was bursting with questions about politics, about sociology, about technology, and about the intersection of these three areas. The underlying theme to his questions, social justice. At the beginning of high school, JJ was already full of righteous indignation over the state of the world, over how people could be so misinformed, so misled, so mistreated, how government could so spectacularly fail, how science could be so completely disregarded. In the 4 years since then, he has proved again and again to be a man of great heart. I've never walked away from a conversation with JJ without being in better spirits than before we started school. Here are the reasons why. 1, JJ never fails to ask, how are you? How was your weekend? Or some variation of that. The fact that he takes the time to do so is significant. 2, he truly appreciates not only the chance to share his ideas, which demonstrates such high-level synthesis and understanding, I feel like I'm talking to a fellow university graduate, but also the opportunity to hear new ideas or look at something from a different perspective. His excitement to learn and to share is infectious. 3, he's genuine. This comes through in his determination, in his humor, and in his caring. The world needs more men of great heart, and while it is with great sadness that I will return to PSI next year knowing JJ will not be here, I'm happy to know that the world beyond is gaining a brilliant, fierce advocate. JJ's been accepted into UVic's combined major in psychology and computer science program. I know that wherever he goes, he'll be taking as many sociology electives as he possibly can. We'll be debating fellow students on the merits of different theories, loving a new environment of learning. JJ, it's been an absolute honor to work with you this past 4 years, and I'm going to miss you, so we better come by and visit. Congratulations.
Sarge just asked if I was okay, and I said yes. Okay. Karen Bird. The pantheon of characters that you have brought into PSII has been staggering. When I look back and try to imagine them all here today, taking a final bow, I am unsure if we would ever have a stage large enough to hold them all. You, however, have filled our stages and pages, our walls, and my Google Drive in particular, with their voices, histories, relationships, senses of humor, and humble attributes. Sometimes they are showy or screaming in defiance, and sometimes subdued or diminished, but they are never under-considered. There have been many, many iterations of personalities and very memorable performances. What is driving your central characters internally, and why they are motivated to act or enact change, change or growth, is the reoccurring theme that binds your characters together. The research, ruminations, relationships, and editing that goes into your creative writing has been seeping into other works rather dramatically this year, including a newfound practice in character graphic designs. There's also been a notable shift in your building both a solid foundation and a platform for your own personal identity and voice this year. You have tested and begun building parts of your own character, and as you now begin to determine what internal motivations that you as a young adult will act upon, it is time for us to part ways, for now. In getting yourself started on the next path, I am sure that the direction that you have chosen to take at Camosun College will contribute to strengthening your convictions. The experiences of both reciprocal and contrary perspectives that you are sure to encounter there will undoubtedly enrich your growing dedication to both social responsibility and to personal development. I am excited for you that the first part of your post-secondary educational adventure will start both close to home and near to friends. I am also very curious to see what you will continue to build on the foundations that you have established while with us at PSII. I hope that you will keep writing and that you will continue to develop characters that represent the voices that need to be heard and shared in your generation. Please keep in touch, consider coming back to lecture, always send me slideshows, and keep on editing. If you'd like, you can return to stage time cops with us, and should time travel become a possibility, you can also bring all of your characters back in time to this stage today and prove me wrong about getting your entire pantheon of characters up here. I would love to meet them all. Congratulations, I am beyond thrilled to watch you take flight, Burton.
One of the things about being an inquiry teacher is that it requires you to let go of the illusion of control in many aspects of the practice and replace that notion with relationships. Tanner is one of the learners who has taught me this. I spent a lot of time leading up to this graduation trying to remember if I ever actually chose to work with Tanner, or if I simply agreed. Regardless, somewhere along the journey, Tanner decided that I was his org teacher, and as long as I agreed, that was the end of that conversation. Since that time, Tanner has taken me on quite a journey, through topics and subjects and outcomes that range from things he's openly and positively passionate about, as in the case of writing and chemistry and music, to things that he is openly and passionately opposed to, which is pretty much everything else. He is eloquent and sophisticated, filled with rich and varied descriptions in both his fiction and non-fiction writing. Although it can include his signature ability to string together many, many seemingly disjointed thoughts, he can also write with great focus and impact. In speech, Tanner is a whirlwind. I have observed him in a single sentence richly compliment, viciously insult, and thoroughly confuse himself, his conversation partner, and everyone who couldn't help but overhear him. This is not an unusual occurrence. Among the many phrases that Tanner has been heard to on a regular basis is, I get it, but I hate it. Tanner, I have it on good authority that you have done everything you need to do to graduate and move on. So you will be leaving us. We get it, but we hate it. Congratulations.
Sean, I am happy to say, is going to leave PSII almost as much a mystery to me as when he arrived. These are some things I know for sure about him. 1, he's a prodigious reader. His interests in books are varied but well honed. If it's not a good or interesting book, it's not worth the time to read it. 2, he has a keen interest in history. 3, his math abilities are very strong. He's applied them to a number of different scenarios. 4, he's highly autodidactic. He learns very well by himself and doesn't need to rely on others. 5, he likes things to be challenging and he likes to figure things out. 6, he is both quiet and strong. He does things even if they are hard. 7, he's going to UVic next year to study history, economics. I'm not actually quite sure because he gave me a small series of heart attacks all during the university application period, only asking me the odd question every once in a while. Most people are like, Jessica, hello. From Sean, I get this calm little, I'm not quite sure how to. Regardless of what he's planning or majoring in, I'm very excited for him to be entering academia. The reason that I'm happy he's still in history is because he's gone through all of high school on his own terms. He's been clear and honest about what he does and does not want to do. He's been clear about how he's going to approach learning, and he's made his own decisions. He's not compromised who he is in order to fit a box or a mold. There's both honor and integrity in this. Sean, congratulations on your graduation. I wish you all the best at UVic next year.
Good afternoon. I'd like to say a few words about Cam a little. Cam joined the PSII community in grade 9, and through his years, he found a passion for music production and created some incredible songs that he composed, arranged, recorded, and produced with lyrics and vocals that range from rap to melodic to metal. He can walk into the music room and then basically pick any instrument that's sitting there, and then all of a sudden everyone turns around and thinking, what just happened there? Wow, it's amazing to see. It's amazing to see. He embraces a multitude of musical styles to create something fresh and original. Cam's style, as we have seen, is also one of a kind, and he customizes his own gear and seems to like shake a thrift store upside down to find all the most unique items. And comes to conversations. I'm going to miss our conversations because they're always coming with a great positive attitude and just really kind words. And even if I have to try and figure out later on when Cam told me sick drips, bro, I was like, okay, I'm going to go figure out what that means. But I appreciate the compliment nonetheless. So. Thank you, Cam, for being a positive influence at PSII and being a great person to chat to and work with. I hope you can place this quote that says a little bit about how to live through and by your artwork. My life's like a soundtrack I wrote to the beat, and even when I was close to defeat, I rose to my feet. So. Congrats, Kev. Never give up.
If I could use one word to describe Truman, I think it would be a physics word. I think it would be acceleration. Truman seemed a bit reluctant, perhaps, at least it looked like that to me, to accept some of what PSII had to offer him when he first started with us. I understand that. But he was always friendly and polite and willing to try things, even if they weren't exactly maybe his cup of tea. And then he found his cup of tea and left any reluctance far, far in the rearview mirror. Truman understands economics and finance in a way and a depth that I am not sure I've ever seen before in someone so young. As if that weren't enough, the door he uses to enter the world of finance is also the door that takes him into politics, sociology, psychology, mathematical thinking, and scientific thinking. The acceleration part seems to be related to the rate at which Truman could consume knowledge, synthesize it, and make it his own. And I think the acceleration becomes more obvious as a result of Truman's growing self-confidence and comfort in sharing his views publicly. What a lot of people may not realize is this best-kept secret that at PSII, Truman is our quietest teacher. He has helped countless learners understand concepts that fall within his main areas of interest especially, some of whom have made sure to tell us that they learned it from Truman. I have had people come to tell me many times things like, I never thought of it like this before, but Truman said, or I didn't really get this before, but once Truman explained it to me. Acceleration is represented by a curve on a graph showing velocity versus time. The rate at which Truman's velocity in terms of personal character growth, in-depth knowledge about the world, and his ability to express his ideas to others in a way that is both informative and generous is represented by a very steep curve indeed. Truman has been very busy these last few months, and he has already begun to make the transition into that stage of his life that follows high school. I've missed the more regular interactions we have had in previous years, but at the same time, I am heartened to see someone so ready to leave this nest. Remember the little people, Truman, as you build what I know will be a formidable professional and personal life. Congratulations on your graduation.
All right, thank you very much. Fantasy. I see you back there. Fantasy and I have had quite a journey together at PSII, and I remember fondly the very first few weeks when we were doing orientation, and I was explaining about how we learn and about the inquiry model and about what I was expecting from her as a student. And I remember her challenging me and questioning me on every step of the way, and with a healthy skepticism and kind of a deep desire to truly understand the place. My early worries about maybe having a handful of a student on my hands proved to be kind of partly true in the sense of me being able to try to keep up with her and her ambition and her drive. I would describe Fantasy as a creative entrepreneur and somebody who is bold and talented and is driven to pursue exactly what she wants to create and is uncompromising in how she gets there. Fantasy and I have shared a lot of common views, and we would have wonderful conversations talking about her inquiries and how it fit into the world and the formation of her opinions of different topics. And she taught me quite a lot about really understanding where students come from and their perspective and what drives them and the difference between our expectations and what their expectations for themselves may be. Fantasy and I also share in common a Russian ancestry, and with that, a lot of conversations about that, and also we share a lot of stubbornness. And I wondered how much, who would have been the more stubborn of the two, but I think her stubbornness came with a perseverance and a purpose, whereas mine was more about trying to learn really about how to be a better teacher for her, and letting go of some of the preconceived notions I had about what learners needed from me as a teacher. Fantasy, you never let something escape you that you didn't understand without first questioning it deeply and without pursuing and including the freedom to explore your own interests as at that side provides its learners. You've developed a process for your inquiries early on that was truly a model that I used to show every other student every September about how a learner could really embrace their passions outside, and I thank you for letting me use your portfolio examples as that model for so many others, and I think it was an inspirational model for a lot of students getting started in their journey. Your passion for your art as well as your education has been inspiring for me to watch, and just as I got to work with you, I wish I got to work with you more on some of these incredible projects that you've produced over the years. You're going to do great things, I'm sure of it, and you will be a powerhouse within the entertainment industry. I want you to learn all that you can next year at film school. Be humble, perhaps a bit less stubborn, but develop your craft, continue to develop your craft, and also the connections that you're going to need to, again, propel yourself into the life that you've been working so hard for over the last few years. Please join me today in celebrating the incredibly talented Fantasy moment.
Amongst the top 4 adjectives I would use to describe Laura are brilliant, fierce, determined, and sensitive. She is also quite possibly the most spectacular underestimator of her own skills and abilities of any learner I have ever worked with. When she first arrived at PSII, it took more than 6 months before she shared a single piece of writing with me. When she did, what I read showed maturity, complexity, and an adept hand. She repeatedly tells me that new experiences are going to be hard and that they might be beyond her, and then she does them anyway, incredibly successfully, such as when she took an accelerated entry course at UVic in psychology and got a final mark for that course in the high 90s, and when I look at some of the incredibly complex narratives that she tackles in her creative writing. Laura, you are not going to only handle university well, but you can, if you like, do med school and become a psychiatrist because it is well within your grasp. Your brain likes to solve problems, to look at things from different angles, to think about the exceptional. Your work is thoughtful, considered, and shows evidence of synthesis from a variety of sources, including your own perspective and experiences. You're bold enough to make a claim and back it up with research, with logic, and with style. Your writing, be it fiction or non, is powerfully stated and engrossing. This does not mean that everything you do or will do will be perfect. So if there's one idea I'd like to send you off into the beyond PSI walls world with, it's that you don't need to be. You're enough as you are, passionate, curious, meticulous. You've impressed the hell out of me. My favorite memories of you over the last 4 years are the ones where we're laughing, either because someone's done something that we both find completely absurd, no one in our present company, of course, or because something proves to be easier than we originally thought it was going to be. Next year at UVic, pursuing a psychology undergrad, I hope you continue to find moments to laugh, because there will be absurd things at university too, and because some things will prove to be easier than you think they might be. Congratulations on your graduation, and best luck with the next 2 or 3 post-secondary graduations I think you're going to be earning in the next decade.
I signed up to do the speech for one of the most articulate people I know and one who thrives in public speaking. So it's even a little bit intimidating. And also an immense honor. I've had the pleasure of working with Kai for the last 3 years. This year, I was his org teacher as I kidnapped from the beginning of the year consensually from another. So working with him has been enriching, thought-provoking, and entertaining. Although there have been minor challenges. He's very apt at learning independently, as well as scheduling and organizing himself. So being his org teacher is largely consisting of running around, trying to keep track of all he does, which is a lot. The nature of being an inquiry teacher is to let go of ego and realize you're going to learn as much from the learner as they will from you. And they will most likely surpass your knowledge in their areas of interest. This is taken to the extreme with Kai. You may know that Kai enjoys a good debate, if you know who he is. His composure and communication when debating formally and casually has always impressed me. He presents his arguments so impartially that I often find it a puzzle to determine what his opinions actually are and when he is exploring other perspectives. Like when he had me questioning a very strong opinion that I had, which is not a rare occasion, he later told me that my argument had almost won him over, though he did not show that at the time at all. Even when his convictions are strong, he is also interested in the perspectives of others in a very deep way. Since he racked up so many credits for graduation in prior years, he didn't have a ton required of him this year, so he had a little bit of time on his hands. He filled this with things such as proving I was right when I told him he wasn't artistically creative in exploring digital designs, animation, and photography, engaging with others regarding their various exploits and contributing where possible, as well as his own numerous exploits, such as the open source encrypted messaging system that he designed in the last couple of weeks that I barely understand. He also spent a decent amount of time wandering around the school with a mischievous grin, not actually up to anything mischievous, apparently. I have seen such development in the last few years from a person who was largely an independent solo learner to someone who thrives in engaging with others and seeks collaborative opportunities wherever possible. I am very certain that he will be successful in his future endeavors. He has already begun establishing a professional name for himself, such as tutoring and website development. I wasn't meant to be plugged, but it could be. The main challenge he may face is which of his multitude of interests he wants to pursue at any given time, and which ones will be lucrative enough to meet his monetary goals. I am still a new teacher. I have not yet developed any thick skin to get me through the advice of sending grads off into the world, though judging by my fellow teachers, that may never happen. Saying goodbye to you, Kai, has proved to be very difficult. I thought, though, that it would be selfish and unfair and entirely not believable if I reported you didn't have enough credits to graduate. Thank you.
again. At the beginning of this year, Kieran started his third year at PSII, which, according to the province, meant that he was entering grade 11. By the time Christmas rolled around, it was beginning to become clear that Kieran had found a different energy and focus for his learning. The result, of course, is that Kieran has now completed all of the requirements to graduate sooner than expected. So as a result, this speech is coming a year early. If I forget anything important, I blame Kieran for rushing me. Over the past couple of years, I've had the privilege of watching Kieran emerge into himself. Not that he wasn't already a confident and self-possessed person before. However, during these strange COVID times, Kieran picked up a guitar and started teaching himself how to play, and something clicked. Kieran fell in love with music. Playing it, listening to it, sharing it, learning about it, learning through it, talking about it, everything about music suddenly came alive under his concentration. Kieran took this passion and leaned into it. Over the past 2 years, Kieran has learned guitar, yes, but also piano and drums. He plays at a consistently high level on all 3 instruments in a variety of styles, in a variety of contexts, and with great joy and generosity. A few months after he started taking piano lessons, while I was watching him play, I was struck by how fluid and technically proficient his playing was. As a former piano student myself, I was, in a word, envious. Everyone I have spoken with who has heard Kieran play or watched him play has commented on his proficiency and his skill. It has been nothing short of remarkable to watch. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Kieran applied to, and auditioned for, one of the joint Mosen and Victoria Conservatory music programs. Not only was he accepted, he's been awarded a scholarship from the conservatory as well. But what I think is most impressive in this transformation of Kieran's musical journey has been how openly he shares his passion with others. I've observed Kieran work with learners who are novices in music and who are highly experienced. No matter who he is playing with, Kieran shares his knowledge, joyful in the experience of sharing. When others are playing, he happily celebrates their successes, and he is always encouraging of others' development. He is, in every sense of the word, generous and giving in his music. I am sad that our time with Kieran has been shorter than we expected, but I am so happy for why. Kieran has discovered his passion, and he is following it. I anxiously look forward to seeing what this next chapter will bring for him. Kieran, it has been a wonderful and unexpected journey, and I am thankful to have been a part of it. Congratulations on your graduation.
I have the great joy of giving Nivi's speech today. Nivi joined us at PSII this year from Greenland, and I feel so grateful that I jumped at the chance to be her org teacher. It has given me the opportunity to get to know this most remarkable young woman. Nivi has conquered many challenges she has encountered through being a young Inuk woman in our modern times in order to pursue her learning goals and community connections all over the world. The process of being an international student is not an easy one. In Nivi's case, she's done this process on numerous occasions in both Denmark and here in Canada. And over this year, I have watched Nivi settle in and make connections here in Victoria with grace and enthusiasm. A huge part of Nivi's year has been a deeper and sometimes very personal dive into the history and impacts of colonialism, especially here in Canada and at home in Greenland. Nivi deeply values community participation and in using her voice to advocate for herself, her people, and her culture. She has been publicly vocal about Inuit rights in the Arctic, including through being a member of the 2022 Arctic Policy Cohort. Most recently, she wrote an article about the long-term Danish government program of forced birth control on Greenlandic Inuit women and girls that has only recently come to widespread public attention in Greenland and Denmark. Nivi has also explored her own personal relationship to colonialism, especially in her experiences with education. In reflecting back on her own life, including through a podcast series she started this year, she's expanded her ideas on what she envisions for all Indigenous people in the world. She's brought the issue of Inuit rights and status back to home soil in Greenland in her fight to access post-secondary education here in Canada, sparking a national conversation in the media and the halls of government about what it means to be Inuit in Greenland. This is work that will undoubtedly continue to benefit Greenlandic people in Nivi's future. So Nivi, when exactly are you running for government? Nivi is excited to return home to Greenland this summer and spend time with her family and be out on the land. She will be in Victoria in the fall to start on her next journey in Indigenous Studies at Camosun College. Nivi, while Greenland will always hold your bones and your heart, I know that you will continue to find home in all of the places that you journey to. You've certainly created a real home for yourself here in Victoria in spite of missing Greenland so much this year. There are many more hugs here in Victoria for when you need them. Siunis Sami Ayunikdamik His Apasi. Congratulations, Nivi.
Ethan didn't join my org group until partway through his final year of high school, and while I know he learned a lot, was supported and challenged, was thriving before I started working with him. I have to say I'm hugely regretful I didn't have the opportunity to start working with him earlier because I was deprived of time to learn from him. Ethan is a writer and a storyteller. He's currently working on a novel for which he's developed a carefully crafted world of culture, history, politics, and unique life forms. His characters are genuine, show strong friendships and family ties, and his story has all the markings of a truly epic piece of fiction. Ethan has a big, loud voice, and I can often hear his laughter and animated conversation from the next room. It doesn't take more than 5 seconds with Ethan, or with his writing though, to realize he is also highly contemplative, astute, and that he notices the little things that are actually the significant things. In any session Ethan attends, he asks questions that delve beneath a surface understanding. His questions make connections, and they consider the maybe, the possibly, the what if. He's brave enough to tackle learning new things, such as quantum mechanics, even if he thinks it will be hard. He's motivated enough to take the steps and do the things he needs to do to get to where he wants to go, even if those things might not be the most interesting or exciting, such as the dedication and determination he showed tackling 2 years worth of French language learning in a matter of months, just so that he could meet the entrance requirements to attend UBC's creative writing program. Next year, Ethan's going to be taking a gap year before heading to UBC. He may not be 100% sure what he's going to do at that time, but he's entirely sure that he's going to make something of it. Ethan, I want to thank you for your exuberance and your sensitivity that you've brought to this community at PSII. I want to thank you for being a role model, even if it wasn't your intention to be one, for your sincerity, for your curiosity, and your determination. They've all made an impression on me, and I'm sure these qualities will stand you in good stead no matter where you end up. Congratulations. Congratulations.
It's challenging to talk about a learner who's vastly more knowledgeable in a specialist subject area than I could ever understand. So instead, I'm going to talk about myself. I started at PSII 2 years ago in the tumultuous decade-long year known as 2020. And while navigating a new school and teaching philosophy, not to mention masks, plexiglass shields, social distancing, and Zoom meetings, I was conducting my own personal inquiry on the inquiry method itself. I read the literature, I talked to my new colleagues, and tried to conceptualize how this methodology worked with real life human beings. But I was lucky enough to have Owen in my org group from the start, and he showed me how it could really work. Owen has chosen to center his learning around one primary inquiry, which was making video games. A fairly esoteric topic by any standards. But somehow he managed to attach so much learning onto this inquiry by creating complex characters and storylines in his games, which he populated with hosts of knights, bandits, cowboys, hunters, assassins, shades, corrupted, and of course, the lumberjack. When people ask me what's different about our school and how it works, I find myself talking about Owen. Owen uses inquiry as a springboard for a broad spectrum of learning. He does the coding, creates the artwork, he divides the mechanics using mathematics, he wove the plot to a climax, wrote the story, the backstories, and all of the dialogue. In fact, Owen did it all. When he was presented with an investment problem in a math session, Owen didn't solve the problem, but he solved all the problems by creating and programming an investment calculator. So that one was kind of in books. Owen's passion and dedication to this project are inspirational, and he's certainly surpassed his 10,000 hours. Owen intends to start an apprenticeship with an electrician and to continue with his lifelong learning. An inspirational young man, and we wish you the best and congratulations on your graduation. It's been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Parker is a natural storyteller. From his early writing and acting in a twin-based time travel comedy, to his prose fiction, to his stop you in the hallway and regale you with a fascinating tale of something interesting that just happened to him, Parker has the gift. Like so many writers, the top of the funnel is sometimes bigger than the bottom. The sheer volume of the worlds and characters he has created in his mind, of what he wants to write about and how he wants it to come across, can sometimes clog up the actual writing process itself. I have heard this so many times among writers. This challenge may very well be the definition of writer. But Parker can see everything with a bit of self-deprecating humor, keeping obstacles in perspective and focusing on his strengths. His writing is, of course, influenced by his deep interest and knowledge of psychology, something that Parker will be going on to study after graduation. He is always careful to think of what motivates people, what makes them tick. This includes his analysis of his fictional and dramatic characters, but also real people in the real world, including himself. Parker's introspection and his keen observation of human behavior have been developing steadily over his years at PSII. Parker has a unique ability to drift into any group of people and any conversation and immediately be a part of it. He is well received by everyone when he does this, And this is in large part due to his generosity in conversation that comes from his thoughtful responses after actually listening to what people say, a rare quality to be sure. As Parker moves through these next few years, I know he will continue to learn things of value at a very deep level. This is also something he does quite naturally. I have seen him quite a few times emerge from his deep thoughts about something he has just uncovered, blinking in the light like a wolf emerging from a dark cave. And he is always willing to share those thoughts, even if he is still in the process of making sense of them himself. This too is a rarity and a quality that will continue to serve him well as he makes his way through young adulthood. Parker, you need to remember these competencies as you move into the part of your life that's going to challenge you with areas you haven't come across yet. Congratulations.
For anyone who hasn't met Charlie, or for anyone who has met Charlie, you already know this. But for those of you who haven't had the pleasure, let me tell you, Charlie makes an impact. Charlie is unafraid to experiment with her look, and the evidence is there in her selection of hair dyes, hairstyles, makeup choices, outfits, eyelashes, and nails. But it is important to understand that Charlie's fashion expressions are matched by her emotional expression. Charlie has not always had the easiest journey through the education system, and sometimes the challenges she has faced at full volume for all of the world to hear. Other times, she has faced those challenges in private and in silence, and we only get to hear about them later. But no matter what, Charlie always comes out the other side with the determination to keep going. There have been a few occasions through these strange times that looked like it might not be the case, but here we are at the finish line. Charlie is still with us. Through baby doll head art and acoustic guitar compositions, through afternoons exploring math and music, politics and geography, emotions, culture, language, and the finer points of taking on adulthood, Charlie was determined to meet her learning goals. Congratulations indeed. Charlie, it has been a long and winding road, and it has certainly not been predictable for you, but you did it, and you made it here. I look forward to seeing how you express yourself in the next chapters of your life.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
My first interaction with Anjali back in grade 9 or 10, I can't remember which, was because she came to me wanting to learn calculus. She wanted to learn calculus, not for the prestige or the bragging rights, but because it was relevant to the computer programming she wanted to do. One of my dreams had come true. Here was someone who wanted to look at mathematics backwards from how it's normally taught. She had no interest in starting slowly, learning skills that would be irrelevant for years until she had the foundation to do the stuff that was actually interesting. No. She wanted to learn calculus and backfill the skills as it became necessary for her to learn them. And she did. Anjali's math journey has been circuitous. It's looped around and backwards, and now she sees how one idea leads to these concepts and to those processes. This is not just Anjali's approach to math. She looks at computers, at government and ideology, at film, at chess, at social issues, at literature, and at probably 100 other things that she just hasn't told me about because she doesn't tell me, I think, at least a tenth of what she actually thinks about. In her writing and in conversation though, it's clear that she thinks deeply and that she makes as much meaning from the implicit as the explicit, from what lurks in the shadows as from what can be seen in the daylight. Next year, Anjali will be pursuing a computer science degree here at the University of Victoria. She's already taken a course through accelerated entry, so she knows what she's getting into. I hope you continue to work backwards from an end goal. I hope you continue to analyze, evaluate, examine intent, and look at what's going on behind the curtain. All the best.
Orla, there's really only one way to do this. Archetypes holding hands with their inner child, resting in the bright green grass, undead and giggling. Slow fluttering red flags survive the grief of some histories, fueled by the tears and years of Kate and Amy hiding things in their dreams. Floating smoke snakes, extended pointer finger, the exhale that arrives on the beat. All soft energy, soft light, curious perspectives. The stairwell she echoes, wait, don't go, I'm crying, I'm dying, I'm so pretty sometimes. Wait, what did we just say? Color is too busy for this story. Intuition rather than ego frames space and captured time. Is it still a metaphor if you can't read your own writing? Orla, are you here? Rude Kira, very rude. Can I just have my breakfast? Orla, I feel that there are many questions that we never finished answering together, but my ego is intact and I know that you will go on to answer them without me, in a heartbeat, on a drumbeat. I also know that this journey did not always come easy for you. As discussed yesterday, the first day that we met, you told me in no uncertain terms exactly what you thought of a high school education. And I thank you for being here anyway and trusting us to create a bridge to get you to the other side of this experience. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of the short time that we got to spend together this year. Selfishly, I wish that we had more time on this particular bridge, but I am very happy for you that this adventure is almost over and your fall goals to travel are just around the corner. Welcome to the other side of high school. I believe that both Demi and Linda would be very delighted to see how you have approached and captured your vision of this fraction of your story in lyric, in movement, and in image these past few months. I also know that whatever journeys and pathways you choose from here, they will be fueled by the immense care that you show towards others, paired with your quick wit and keen sense of humanity. In addition, I trust that you will always quietly cherish all of the small and meaningful gestures, that you will observe all of the small glances and stretches of warm light, none of which ever get past you. I also know that you will continue to pursue your pure and unapologetic dedication to intuitive creative endeavors. Please keep sharing this gift with others. Congratulations, Orla, you've done it.
In keeping with the example set by Jack, I'm going to keep this brief. I say this because Jack is a person who's very efficient. He is not one to talk for the sake of talking, and he does not carry on, even about topics that are clearly a passion of his. Instead, he tends to be direct and efficient in his use of words. As a teacher who enjoys helping learners with their writing, this initially posed a challenge for me. How, I thought, can I help this learner to meet word counts for English papers? How can I support him in saying all the things that need to be said when he says so little? One of the great joys that comes from being an inquiry teacher is that I get to learn from every single learner. With Jack, one of the things that I learned is the freedom that comes from efficient communication. It is not just that Jack is a person of few words, it's just that he doesn't keep talking or writing when he's said what needs to be said. I think this is one of the things that also makes Jack an excellent coach. For those of you who are not aware, Jack is one of many high-performance athletes we have at PSII. Jack competes in gymnastics, and he is very highly ranked. Besides competing, though, Jack also coaches young athletes in both gymnastics and parkour. When he works with athletes, I like to imagine he is just as clear and efficient with his words as he is at school, and that leaves more time to get on with the doing part. And this doing is an ongoing theme with Jack. During his short time with us here at PSII, I've observed Jack make designs and even have the opportunity to turn one of those designs into reality. I've seen him take on all of the work of high school and still spend half his days at the gym, either coaching other young athletes in gymnastics and parkour or engaging in his own gymnastics training. I've watched Jack set goals for himself, both athletic and academic, and meet them all. Jack, we didn't get a lot of time together while you were at PSII, but you taught me that the volume of time is not nearly as important as what we fill it with. Thank you for letting me accompany you on this leg of your journey. May your next chapter bring you surprises and delights. Congratulations.
Nicholas has a quick wit, an eye for the anomalous, and a mind that enjoys solving puzzles. In the 4 years he's spent with us here at PSII, he's invested time in computer programming, graphic design, and following his questions of, I wonder if I could do this. He's gracious enough to describe to me what he's working on, but most of the vocabulary and terminology is beyond me, so I usually have to wait to see the finished product before it makes sense. When I look back, I can't help but be struck by the growth that's happened over the last years. My favorite memory from grade 9, the day before the spring break trip to Europe was scheduled to leave, I pulled up my chair beside Nicholas and asked, "So are you excited for the Europe trip tomorrow?" And his response was, "That's tomorrow?" I very much appreciate that he has a sense of humor that allows me to poke fun at him, and that he's poked good fun at me too. It's been respectful, and that allowed me to reference this memory of grad. But back to growth. When preparing for a scholarship interview, Nicholas and I did a mock run-through. I asked him questions about his process, his interests, his involvement in community, and the challenges he's taken on and faced. His responses were detailed, mature, and reflected just how much thought Nicholas puts into the decisions he makes, the project planning he does, and how well he predicts issues that might arise if he were to approach it one way versus another. It was quite impressive. He put a similar level of thought into his post-secondary research and applications. He wanted a program that provided co-op opportunities and that was close to a body of water so he could continue sailing competitively. Nicholas finally decided to accept his offer of admission to UVic's software engineering program. Nicholas, I hope you enjoy the challenge of university, and congratulations on your graduation.
It's been actually interesting watching this next graduate throughout this ceremony because, well, actually before I get to this one, I want to say a special congratulations to all the other grads and the coming grads as well. It's been a treat getting to know all of you over your time, some of you for the 4 years. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you on your next exciting journey. And I know someone who's also been very proud of all of this. You can feel the pride of my colleagues on the stage as we talk about each of our donors. And Kiara has been crying this entire ceremony in pride for all of you because she is a true caring person I would say she's also kind of a matriarchal figure amongst the grade 12s. I know that I've seen her many times being that shoulder for a lot of students when they needed someone to talk to. And I'm going to do my best to get through this. But when we're trying to write these speeches, we think of the different moments that we want to talk about and the characteristics that we want to celebrate with these learners. And often we look for those revealing moments that show their true character and what we can celebrate today with you guys. I know that one moment very fondly with Kiara. One of the hardest things in teaching is when you hear from your students about experiences they've had that have made their learning really challenging and has created a block or some kind of a trauma that they have to work through. And Kiara was brave enough to let me help her work through one of those in school. But it came to essay writing, something I'm sure a lot of you can sympathize with. And I'm taken back in this moment to that classroom working on the whiteboard with you. And you've given me permission to reopen that wound and to move through it with you. And I just wanted to share all with you that moment when this incredible young woman took that step and moved through something that was clearly holding her back for years. She gained a resiliency that has just been piercing and fierce. And in that moment, I saw a sea change. We all did. And you became a different person. You became the person you were trying to be at school that you wanted to be. It propelled you into all sorts of different inquiries. And since then, I haven't seen you look back. It's just been an incredible, motivating, inspiring experience to work with you. Can't even look at the phone of what else I was going to say. It's really been, with all of the grads, an incredible learning experience. But I'm so proud to see you get to this point today, and I know we still have more learners here, but I really want everyone to celebrate with me today the graduation of Kiara. Thank you.
That was amazing. And you know, standing here as an old guy who's kind of an outsider, I'm sharing with parents or everyone else the stories of accomplishment, diversity, interesting individuality amongst this group is amazing. Only need to one or two conclusions. Either your teachers are grossly exaggerating, we are good hands. I'm sure from what I've heard, I think the opposites. I think we're pretty good hands. And that's what we're Now it's my pleasure to introduce the second of the people to whom I am speaking today, Cannon. Heidi. Cannon, I met Cannon first a year and a half ago on Zoom. She'd come to Victoria to study PhD and then took the PSII. But because of the pandemic situation, she was isolated in a hotel room for 2 weeks. So I met her face to face. My impression of her at that time was, wow, here's the young woman who's come all this way, only stuck in a hotel room for 2 weeks. What's she going to be like when she gets out? Well, I'll tell you what she's like. If ever there was a saying that's truer than the eyes are the windows of the soul, then this is Canada. She smiles every part of her is smiling. And that's again a quality that she transcends to the stage. She's an accomplished dancer, a joy to watch, as is Hansel. And again, creates this story, this atmosphere with her dance. She achieved a very, very high honor indeed, getting honors, I guess, certificate in the Cicchetti dancing method. Cicchetti is an Italian form of ballet. And this is the Canada White kind of thing she's got certificate. math. She won a certificate prize for the recent Vancouver Island Arts Festival. And she's been accepted to the very prestigious Orlando Ballet for the summer. After that period, she's going to come back to the AD, do 2 years of the bridge program, and then continue on in her career in ballet and some sort. But the thing I admire probably most about Canon is her ability to just carry on, right? Learning English isn't the easiest thing, just trust me, I'm trying to learn Japanese. It is tough, but she's done it, she's graduated, and she's really made an impression on all those people who know her. So please join me in congratulating a great young dancer with a tremendous future, Canon.
I've come to realize in the past few weeks that the learners who are graduating today and who started at PSII at the beginning of their grade 9 year have been at PSII for almost exactly 3 months longer than I have. For me, next year is going to be very strange start with them. I began working here in December of 2018, and the pre-COVID, fresh to high school grade 9s, that I started working with had largely been working with Sarge until I arrived late in the year. One of the greatest curiosities for me in my first weeks and months was this young man whose interests and inquiries ranged from psychedelics to cigarette marketing and visiting vineyards and researching winemaking. Was I concerned at first glance? Or was Enzo just in the wrong decade? Possibly the wrong country? Together, and with both of us a little uncertain as how to approach these topics about the human condition and influences on human perception in a professional way, we launched into inquiry. In time, I had the great pleasure to watch him grow into a thoughtful researcher, and my initial reservations about what Enzo wanted to learn about grew into an understanding of his nostalgic appreciation of old world charm and the inner workings of the human psyche. In early years, Enzo sometimes needed encouragement to work through multiple creative iterations that supported getting his details dialed, and at other times needed an insistence for greater organization so that we could find the many creative iterations in the layers of unnamed Photoshop files. But his vision was always there and uniquely Enzo. Working at a distance over the long COVID months while not in the same physical space, with me tucked in the music room and Enzo tucked into his garage in the office, and in his last, we started interviews with professionals in graphic design, marketing, and production. And in his last year with us, Enzo has taken over those meetings with confidence and professionalism. He always takes the big screen now in meeting room 3, and I get to sit back and listen and possibly offer small suggestions and encouragement to push through to post-production. Sharing Enzo with Sarge these past 4 years has been a joy for both of us, and every year when building org groups, there is a determined side eye between the two of us when we get to Enzo's name. That inevitably ends with a wholehearted agreement that we are very lucky to be able to work in collaboration and to co-create with all of our learners. With that in mind, I'm going to give Sarge the last word.
It really is only fitting that Kira and I share this speech as we've been sharing the role of org teacher for Enzo for the past 4 years. And it has been a metamorphic 4 years. When Enzo started at PSII, he was unsure and uncertain about what he could do, about how to balance what he wanted to do with what he should do, and about how to set goals and priorities. At the same time, Enzo expressed a frank and open curiosity about the world, and about some unusual topics for a kid just coming into high school. Always, though, Enzo infused joy into his interactions with teachers and with his fellow learners. That clear and distinctive voice of Enzo's has often been heard ringing through the collaborative space, and almost always with happiness and friendliness. The exception to this, of course, is when he has lost a game of chess, or crib, or crazy dates. Enzo has explored in his time with us many diverse interests, including graphic design, as Kira mentioned, as well as friendship, human perception, advertising, food, travel, community, and family. Enzo has also started studying game theory, which led to the formation of a game theory group this year. At the near unanimous request of the learners who joined Enzo this year, the game theory group will be continuing next year. This is one example of the many ways that Enzo has left his mark on SII, and it is one that I look forward to with particular joy, because Enzo pushed himself so far outside of his comfort zone to start learning game theory initially. And then his leadership and camaraderie in this group contributed so much to the success of the entire year. From a tentative and uncertain young learner, Enzo has emerged as a clear and decisive human being with many strong friendships, who expresses himself openly and honestly, and whose generosity leaves a lasting legacy amongst the learners he has been sharing space with for the last 4 years. Enzo, we are going to miss you, but we are so happy for having shared this part of your journey with you. I know I speak for Kira as well when I say congratulations. Congratulations.
We're here, we're at the last one. Luca, I know I've made you wait all the way till the end, but I'm going to make you wait a little more. I figure it's par for the course since you're always punctual and I am always late, so hopefully you'll forgive me this time. When you write, you always have a good preamble, so I'm going to do the same. I'd like to take a moment to talk about the school, because it really is quite different from most. When Jeff started SII more than 9 years ago now, he put at the center of the model the learner. Around the learner are a number of valued human attributes. These include personal awareness and understanding, self-awareness and authenticity, creativity and contribution, interdependentness and open-mindedness, and lastly, ethical awareness and practice. If those sound lofty, it's because they are. Around these are the competencies we talk with our learners so much about, and which they groan and grumble about, and which they don't really realize are actually the underpinnings of pretty much every conversation we have with them. But back to the valued human attributes. While the competencies might go unnoticed, the valued human attributes almost always do, except by Luca, who consciously put them front and center in his high school learning. Luca, it is not an exaggeration to say, has thought deeply, philosophically, analytically about who he is, the current state of the world, and pretty much everything preceding us. He is aware, as no teenager I have ever met before is aware, of who he is. He knows at his very core that he has something unique, something creative, something vital to share with the world. He's read more philosophical texts than most master's students could boast. It's not an exaggeration. And in his reading, he has argued, refuted, accepted, amalgamated, and applied what he's learned to politics, to law, to literature, and to hours and hours worth of conversation. It has been revelatory. In 4 years, you've done what most do not accomplish in an entire lifetime. Your final paper, a masterpiece, and in a way, a eulogy to high school Luca. It is eloquent, profound, moving, and it captured your experience here with us. To describe the joy and elation and the very real tears I shed while reading it, I'm keeping it together now, though I'm pretty happy, it would be impossible. Though some teachers may have complained that you had nothing to do in the final 2/3 of the school year, to be fair, you had finished all your coursework by then. This time was by no means wasted. You used this to equip yourself for the next step. You are grounded and ready. When you go to King's College in Halifax next year to take their interdisciplinary, philosophically oriented foundation years program, I truly hope that you're going to be embraced raised by peers and professors who will continue to challenge your thinking, who will ask questions with you, and who will see you for you. Thank you so much for the hours of discussions over the last 4 years and for bringing so much to our community. Congratulations.
Does everyone have a Kleenex? You might need one. Sometimes in life we must trust our intuition and take a leap. A leap of faith, a leap of confidence, a leap to safety. When we do this, it can be very important to have good friends to chat things out with. To be there for us in mid-flight and to cheer us on, to add kindness, humor, levity, and a really solid playlist, or to be a stable place to land if we fall. As some of you may know, we have another kind of farewell to say today. I personally refuse to see this as anything but I will see you soon. Anton is taking a leap. He is taking a risk, adjusting his sights, listening to his heart, finding rhythm with the natural world, and stretching out. One of the more truly beautiful things about what he is doing is that he is taking a leap out of, not a leap into, and this is a shift that is both worthy of acknowledgement and celebration. From the day that I started at PSII, I have watched Anton very naturally leaping towards. Anton jumps into supporting both teachers and students alike. He jumps into inquiries, into research, into international trips, into online COVID exercise classes complete with Lycra and headnets. He jumps into supporting every performance that has been staged in the years that he has been here, into the co-creation of challenging grad plans, and into the supporting role of friend, colleague, cheerleader, mentor, and most recently into singing as Bob Dylan. Though I was sure he would lose his voice repeatedly croaking out a solid likeness, this was not a surprising example of the dedication in time, energy, and talent that he continually bestows enthusiastically in supporting our learners and staff on their personal trajectories and in learning. If you need an idea, any kind of an idea, Anton has 10. Well, probably 20. And with all of that comes a genre-specific and appropriate soundtrack, as well as a background dance performance to fully support your concept. He can also provide full technical support and build you the studio, the wall, or the sound booth that you need to do your work. He will additionally provide accurate historical context and show up in period costume if you ask him, sometimes even if you don't. Antoine is the kind of friend who shows up mid-flight to make sure you are representing the correct decade in detail. He can be counted on to be center stage when you need him and to be right there in the wings if you need to reach back for support. There is likely no way I would be standing here today if I did not have his support when I first started at PSII, and I don't think I'm the only person in this room who could say that. I can't speak for everyone. However, Anton, I am so grateful for your friendship, and I am so proud of the leap that you are taking into your future. Your genuine and authentic energy are a part of the fabric of PSII. You'll be missed dearly, as you are the good friend that we normally get to chat with mid-leap, in the air and feeling vulnerable. Thank you for always listening and for hearing. Thank you for everything that you have brought to the school and to the individuals that you have mentored along the way. Thank you for always being authentically you and for taking this leap. This is the way that a mentor truly models growth and practices lifelong learning. May we all be so brave.
Well, we had a lot more planned, but we're just about out of Kleenex. So we're wrapping it up here right now. First, I just want to thank everyone for coming today. It's been great to actually celebrate this in person again after a couple of years of very creative, I don't know what you call it, shenanigans to try to do something like this. And there's really no substitute for having everybody in the same room. The weather is cooperating with us today, which is lovely, so please, as we wrap it up here in a minute, feel free to use the gardens, take some pictures, talk to people. No need to run away too quickly, hopefully, for you. And once again, I think we should just, after all we've just heard, I think one nice round of applause for the entire graduating class of 2022.